All right, guys. Well, welcome to the Junior Coaching Conference. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this.
Yes.
In virtual. My name is Matt. I'm the Media and Digital Content Coordinator, so I'm just kind of overseeing how this technology works. So please bear with us. It's the first time we've used this, but we've opened the chat up so you guys can, during the presentations, can type away any questions that you have. Alex, do you want to introduce yourself and what we've got in store for the next couple of hours?
Well, thank you everyone for logging in. Obviously, with everything going on, it's a bit concerning, but we want to try and provide you a service and keep the football community together. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Alex, the Junior Football and Futsal Coordinator here at Football SA. And we're trying to put some things together for the near future. So tonight we have Andrew Murray will start off his presentation with an update of the laws of the game.
Hello, I'm Andrew. I am the State Referee Manager for Football SA, and I'll be conducting a presentation on the update to the laws of the game for the 2020 season. I'd like to start off by saying that usually there's one or two law updates each year which don't really affect gameplay. There's been a large amount of law changes which have come into effect in the 2020 season. Some of them are major and do affect gameplay, and those will be mentioned today. Please put any questions in the comments section and I'll answer them at the conclusion of the presentation. There has been an amendment made to the coin toss procedure. The team that wins the toss of a coin decides which goal to attack in the first half or to take the kickoff in the first half. Depending on the above choice, the opponents take the kickoff or decide which goal to attack in the first half. The next Laws of the Game update involves a substitution procedure. In previous years, all substitutes had to leave from the halfway line near the technical area. This amendment now allows referees to direct players to leave the field of play by the nearest point on the boundary line. The mentality behind this update is to prevent delaying the restart tactics, where a player will take a long period of time to leave the field of play towards the end of a match that they're winning. My expectation in community matches is that the substitution procedure, on the most part, will still be through the halfway line, and referees will encourage players to use the halfway line. If they are directed to leave near the nearest boundary line, then they must return to the technical area or dressing room immediately. Our next Laws of the Game amendment involves a penalty kick procedure. The defending goalkeeper must remain on the goal line, between the post, facing the kicker, without touching the goalpost, crossbar or net, until the ball has been kicked. When the ball has been kicked, the defending goalkeeper must have at least part of 1 foot touching or in line with the goal line. This amendment allows a bit of natural movement and anticipation from the goalkeeper, who's anticipating the save of the penalty kick. If, in the opinion of the referee, the goalkeeper saves a penalty kick and gets a clear advantage by stepping off the goal line, we're talking 2 or more steps off, the goalkeeper will be penalised and the penalty kick will be retaken. The next Laws of the Game update involves the injury management of players. A player may receive treatment on the field of play and will not have to leave the field of play if a penalty is awarded and the player is going to take the penalty kick. This amendment is in place now to resolve an issue where previously, if the normal penalty taker from the team was slightly injured as a result of the penalty kick being awarded, needs to receive treatment, would then have to leave the field of play and then would not be able to return until the referee gives permission and will not be able to take the penalty kick. The change now allows, if the player injured is the nominated penalty taker, to remain on the field of play. If this player is not the nominated kicker, then they will have to leave the field of play. Or if there's any other reason why the referee may have to direct the player to leave the field of play, including blood, then the referee will still do so. But this whole mentality behind this update is to allow the team not to lose their main penalty kicker because they have had to receive treatment for a slight injury. The next laws of the game update is in regards to drinks breaks and cooling breaks. Previously in the laws of the game, it only directed referees when necessary to conduct drink breaks, which were 1 minute in duration. Sometimes these were used as tactical breaks from coaches to give tactical advice, and hydration of players was not the main focus. The amendment to the law now includes cooling breaks, which are from 90 seconds to 3 minute duration, which will allow players to rehydrate, which is the purpose of the stop, not for a tactical purpose. Referees will now allow lost time for medical stoppages, where permitted so in competition rules. So senior matches, 18s, reserves, and obviously the senior matches, referees will add on all lost time for medical stoppages. For community matches where there's matches back to back to back, match officials will use common sense and attempt to apply allowance for lost time without affecting the next kick-off time. Because if one kicks off 10 minutes late, then the next one will, and there's a huge roll-on effect. So where possible, referees will add on this time for the medical stoppages. There's also been an update to disciplinary action for team officials. Referees may show a yellow or red card to team officials who fail to act in a responsible manner. A full list of offences that can be committed by team officials is located in the laws of the game. It will also be located in the summary that we give you after this presentation. However, because the list is very long, we won't read it out today. In the circumstances where the person who committed the offence cannot be identified, the senior coach will receive the sanction. Ideally, the person that commits the offence will receive the sanction, but the laws of the game now gives the referee the scope to put the sanction against the leader of the group, who is the senior coach. Another thing to note is that team officials do accumulate yellow cards at the same rate as players. So, 5 yellow cards in one season will result in a 1 match suspension and so on. One of the major law amendments for 2020 is the changes to the goal kick procedure. The ball must be stationary and is kicked from any point within the goal area by a player from the defending team. The ball is in play when it is kicked and clearly moves. Opponents must be outside the penalty area until the ball is in play. So we can see here the dark blue players are outside the penalty area. The ball has now been played by the goalkeeper and they are allowed to enter the penalty area. If an opponent who is in the penalty area when the goal kick is taken or enters the penalty area before the ball is in play, then touches or challenges for the ball, the goal kick is retaken. So you can see here, the dark blue player is clearly inside the penalty area when the goal kick is to be taken. Player then challenges for the ball, resulting in the referee ordering the goal kick to be retaken. If when the goal kick is taken, any opponents are inside the penalty area but did not have time to leave, the referee will allow play to continue. If these players challenge for the ball or gain an unfair advantage by being inside the penalty area, the referee will order a retake. There was a common theme with this law change when it came out to international matches, where goalkeepers would lift the ball with their feet to a teammate who would head or chest the ball back to the goalkeeper, and then the goalkeeper would then pick up the ball with their hands. This is not permitted under the laws of the game and will result in a goal kick being retaken. The ball is dropped for the defending team goalkeeper in their penalty area if, when play was stopped, the ball was inside the penalty area or the last touch of the ball was inside the penalty area. We can see in this example here, play stopped for the assessment of an injured player. Ball is dropped to the goalkeeper inside the penalty area. In all other cases, the referee drops the ball for one player of that team that last touched the ball at the position from where the ball was last touched. So we can see in this video here, once again, referee stops play for an injury assessment, and we can see that the light blue player has full control of the ball. All players of both teams must remain at least 4 metres from the ball until it's in play. As soon as the ball touches the ground, it is deemed to be in play. If the ball touches a match official and remains on the field of play and a team starts a promising attack, or the ball goes directly into the goal, or the team in possession of the ball changes, play is restarted with a drop ball. The ball strikes the referee and changes possession. Play should be stopped and restarted with a drop ball to the red team from the location of the last touch. The next amendment to the laws of the game involves defensive walls at free kicks. At the taking of a free kick, all opponents must be at least 9.15 metres or 10 yards from the ball, or outside the penalty area for free kicks inside the opponent's penalty area. Where 3 or more defending team players form a wall, all attacking players must remain at least 1 metre from the ball until the ball is in play. This includes in front, behind, or either side of the wall. We can see here now the referee setting up the wall. The wall contains 4 defending players. This means that the light blue attacking player must remain 1 metre away from the wall until the ball's been kicked. Where only 1 or 2 defending players form a wall, the 1 metre restriction does not apply, and therefore attacking team players may stand closer than 1 metre from the wall. See the referee's now setting up the wall again. The wall only contains 2 defending players. This means that the attacking player may stand within the 1 metre distance around the defensive wall. It is never acceptable for a player to force themselves into a defensive wall, and the referee will manage accordingly. If, when a free kick is taken, an attacking team player is less than 1 metre from a wall formed by 3 or more defending players, an indirect free kick is awarded. This is probably the most controversial amendment to the laws of the game, and it involves interpretation of handling the ball. The IFAB Laws of the Game Update 2019-20 provides match officials with greater clarity for handball offences. Players may be penalised if the ball touches their arm, elbow or hand. The handball update now breaks the law into 3 categories. These are: this is always an offence, this is usually an offence, and it is not usually an offence. It is always an offence if a player deliberately touches the ball with their hand or arm, including moving the hand or arm towards the ball. This is a very similar interpretation from 2019. The defending player deliberately handles the ball to prevent it from going over the goal line. The correct decision in this case is to award a penalty kick to the defensive side and send off a player for a red card for denying the team an obvious goal scoring opportunity. It is always an offence if a player gains possession or control of the ball after it has touched their hand or arm and then scores in the opponent's goal, creates a goal scoring opportunity, scores in the opponent's goal directly from their hand or arm, even if accidental. Although accidental, the ball strikes the attacking player's hand and goes directly into the opponent's goal. The correct decision is to award a direct free kick to the defending team for the handling offence. Football does not accept a goal being scored into the opponent's goal from the hand or arm, even if accidental. It is usually an offence if a player touches the ball with their hand or arm when the hand or arm has made their body unnaturally bigger. The ball strikes the arm of the player who has made their body unnaturally bigger to create a barrier to block the cross. The correct decision is to award a penalty kick for the handling defence by the defending team. It is usually an offence if a player touches the ball with their hand or arm when the hand or arm is above or beyond their shoulder level, unless the player deliberately plays the ball, which then touches the hand or arm. The ball strikes the defender's hand, which is above shoulder level. The defender is taking a risk by having his arm above shoulder level, which is usually an offence. Correct decision is to award penalty kick for the handling offence. The ball has come directly off the player's foot onto his arm. This is not usually an offence. Correct decision is to allow play to continue. No offence has been committed. Except for the above offences, it is usually not an offence if the ball touches a player's hand or arm, if the hand or arm is close to the body and does not make the body unnaturally bigger. Except for the above offences, it is not usually an offence if the ball touches the player's hand or arm when a player falls and the hand or arm is between the body and ground to support the body, but not extended laterally or vertically away from the body. The player falls over and the ball strikes the arm, which is being used to support the body from the ground. Correct decision is to allow play to continue. This is not an offence. An offence category outranks all other categories. The ball goes directly from the player's own head onto his hand. This is not usually an offence. However, the ball goes directly into the opponent's goal after touching the hand, which is always an offence. Correct decision is to award a direct free kick to the defending team for handling the ball. The updated handling the ball interpretation is new for everyone, including match officials. A document including all laws of the game updates for the 2020 season will be sent out after this presentation.
Welcome, Andy. Good presentation. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes over the last couple of months. Just talk us through some.
Yeah, so this year's been pretty hard to educate all the referees on the new laws of the game due to the fact there's been quite a few. There's been some quite big ones, like the handball interpretation one, which will take a long time to get used to. I think culturally we started to accept towards the end of 2019 that every handball had to be deliberate. And then IFAB amended the laws of the game, and now some handballs don't have to be deliberate, it can be accidental. So we've just got to be mindful that there are some really big changes this year. We need to be patient to allow referees to help educate the players by applying those laws, as well as us trying to educate the wider community of the new laws as well, because there's quite a few big ones. One thing we are doing in the community refereeing space is the referee retention plan, which we introduced in 2019. This means that when you are a new referee, you do get allocated to a mentor group and mentor support for your first game and the first part of your journey as a referee. So you might see them around occasionally where there's a green shirt match official and there'll be a mentor on the sideline. So they're there to help the referee not referee the game, but to be there as a support mechanism, give them some advice on what to do during the game, after the game, before the game as well, and just give them that crucial support so we can actually start developing referees, retain them for longer, meaning they'll end up being better quality in the long run, and don't lose them as quick. So that's what we're doing in that space. Is there any questions at all that you guys want to type to me? Haven't got any.
So we can type in the chat, or if you have a question, we can unmute your account. We kind of didn't want everyone's microphone to be turned on because we probably wouldn't hear anything. So if you've got any questions at all, either chuck them in the chat or we can unmute you and you can tell your question to the whole group.
Cool. We'll give a few seconds for that in case someone's typing vigorously there. I will send out through Alec a resource, which is an IFAB resource containing the laws of the game changes as well. So you can read over at your own time. If there is any questions on that resource when you have time to sit down and read over it, feel free to flick Alec an email and then he'll get to me. Yes, Claudia, we can get a copy of the presentation. We'll work on that so you can have a look at it again.
And you just touched upon that obviously we're going through a pretty tricky period at the moment for football in SA. What are you and the referees doing, either fitness-wise or to keep on top of the game?
Yep.
What are you getting up to?
So not many people know that the referees have training twice a week, fitness training twice a week. We hold it once at the parks, Velo Parks, and once at West Beach as well. These sessions contain physical training as well as theory-based training for our match officials. So all our registered match officials are able to attend that. Because of everything that's going on, just like clubs, we can't meet up as a group anymore. We're doing a lot of internet-based coaching at the moment, trying to push some materials through to the guys so they're keeping on the top of their game. Because just like players, referees can easily get out of touch when they're not refereeing for a while, get a bit rusty. So we're trying to keep on top of that.
There's obviously a lot of talk around, VAR. I'm sure you're sick and tired of talking about that.
Yeah.
How do you think that's going for the future of the game?
I think it's something that we have to accept. We might not have found the ideal way to do VAR yet, or video assistant refereeing. We can see around the world how different cultures are handling it differently. The German leagues are handling it a lot better than some of the other leagues. And I guess, especially with offside decisions where it's factual and there is an offside line, and now we've got technology in the A-League and other leagues to be able to get it to the millimetre, then it's really important that we accept that technology and we accept that little tiny bit is going to be offside. So when it's factual, I think it works. We just need to accept that. And then when it's interpretation based, what is a red card, then we've still got to let it up to the referee on the field to make the decision on the replay. So yeah, I think it has its place in the sport. And as time goes on and as we modify it, we'll get better.
Cool. Mark's just sent a comment in. Law RE wall and attackers is very literal. Cannot stand 1 metre in front of the wall. How about sit, kneel, lie, or more importantly, run? Yep.
So the laws of the game mention at the time the ball's kicked from the free kick. So if there is a player within that 1 metre radius at that time the ball's kicked and they have interfered, the referee will make the kick be retaken through the indirect free kick. So it's all about when that's actually kicked itself. So if the player's within that 1 metre mark, if they're running, kneeling, or just in that zone, then they are in breach of the law.
Fantastic. Andy, thank you for your time. If there's no more... Ken, what support mechanism are in place for green refs when they don't have a mentor at their game?
So this is a hard one, obviously, because of resourcing. We have mentor groups for the retention plan now. So when you're put into the retention plan as a new year referee, you get put into a group of, let's say, 10 or 15 referees with one mentor. It's their job to juggle and get around to everyone. So usually when you're a green shirt official, you're still involved in a mentor group. The process is that they stay in that mentor group for 50 games or until they're a level 3 referee, so the next step up in the accreditation scheme. And then they become one of my referees in my group, which is the community refereeing pool, to look after. So the retention plan's really in place there just for that 50 under 50 games referees that we like to support. So it's not like we're just going out to their first game and then letting them go. The ongoing support's there in the form of the mentor group for their first part of the refereeing journey. What powers do they have if adults are intimidating? It's a very hard one because they have a lot of power under the laws of the game to remove spectators, to stop the match, to abandon the match. During actual games, because of the feeling around the place, and it's a very common feeling from match officials that they don't feel comfortable to abandon the match because they feel like it would make or escalate the issue that's going on. So it's unfortunate that happens, but they do have powers to stop the match, get the ground stewards to deal with the spectators, to remove all the spectator all the way to abandonment. So they do have a lot of powers to deal with players, team officials and spectators. It's just getting them to a safe environment to be able to use those is what we're working on at the moment.
Andy, thank you very much for your time.
No problem.
So if there are no more questions, we're going to pass on to Alec Wilson, our new coach education manager, who arrived from New Zealand a couple of months ago. He's just started the role. He's put together a presentation. Again, if you have any questions during the presentation, just chuck them in the comments there. We'll review them and get them answered to you after the presentation. So we're going to switch across now.
Hi, I'm Alec, Football South Australia's new Coach Education Manager. And tonight I'm going to be delivering a presentation focusing on increasing coaches' understanding about how to deliver age-appropriate training sessions and game day experiences for junior players, especially those 5 to 13. So here's a quote I found recently, which as soon as I saw it, I thought it's a good one to include in here, because we know that throughout development and childhood, children don't develop at the same rate. So I'll give you a second to to absorb it. So in football, many aspects that guide players' long-term development, research shows it can be things such as birth order. So is it the older sibling, is it the middle sibling or the younger sibling? For example, if it's the younger sibling and the older siblings play football, where that child is likely to be exposed to football at a younger age than perhaps maybe a firstborn child. Is it the month of birth? So a child born January would have 12 months physical development on a player born in December, but they're in the same age group. So that would give the player born at the start of the year often a physical advantage. We know that as players come through our skill acquisition phase, so they start to getting 11, 12 and 13, they're starting to go through maturation, through growth spurts. So those that grow early would have a physical advantage over others. Or it could be that those that grow early suddenly become the clumsy giraffe at football and struggle with their coordinator over the short term. Or it could be simple as having other friends and family that play football, and they play football in their spare time at school or after school, compared to a child that doesn't. Well, the child that's continually exposed to football will accumulate more football hours sooner at a younger age, but doesn't necessarily mean in the long term they will be the better player. So here's another quote that I found, I think it was last year at some stage. So just want to give you time to read it. So Alfie's a football player, comes on, plays 10 minutes, just touches the ball once, but his team win 5-0. Is he really the winner? Or he plays majority of the game, tests himself, tries to action a lot of the skills that he's been working on in training, but his team lose 2-1. Is he really a loser? So we've got to think and got to ask yourself as the coach, is your team really winning? Or is that just what the score says? How do we really judge success for junior football? And is it really all about the score? So here I just want to play a video I came across, which I think optimizes and shows that approach.
I'm old enough to know that I'm not good enough to play. Maybe it's time for me to walk away. I sit on the sidelines waiting for my turn. I can't wait to get my energy to burn. I tried my best in training. I tried my best at school. I've behaved well for Mum and Dad, and always for my coach. I asked my coach if I could play, but he says the game's really tight. If you let me on, I'll play with all my might. It's not so fun stuck on the side alone, while my friends are playing and I'm cold to the bone. I know others are better, but I always try my best. How will I get better if I don't play with the rest? My coach wants to win, I just want to play. This is my childhood at the end of the day. Thought this was fun, but it's not anymore. Coach isn't interested in me. He's only interested in the score. I'm old enough to know I'm not good enough to play. Maybe it's time for me to walk away.
So you have to think, is your approach as a coach there, was it all about the player or is it about something else? So actually we want your approach to be about a development journey, all the way when someone comes in 5, 6, 7, 8 to taste our sport for the first time, all the way through to senior football, NPL football, A-League football, or even international football. So everything we do should be based on player enjoyment, long-term development and equal opportunity. Because there's numerous examples of international players who have made it to the very top of the game who are actually in their junior years and their formative years were just very ordinary players. So we need to make sure that junior football is not about this. It's not about plastic trophies. It's not about your ability to brag as a coach. Yeah? And results, as we talked about before at the start, can be influenced by so many factors for that player that's aged 5 to 13. Remember, I think it's key to remember that the score in junior football, in that skill acquisition or discovery phase, has no reflection on your ability as a coach. Everything you do should be guided by ensure that these are the people that you're catering for. The best junior coaches are those who players turn up week in, week out with a smile on their face and who come back season after season, as that coach is establishing a lifelong love of the game. Players are enjoying it, players are playing, players are continuing to play. So the next section, I want to focus on some guidelines that can help you guide what you do with your team on a game day. New slide. So in junior football, there's actually 3 groups that we need to satisfy. Yeah. So what to think about? What do the following people here want from a football experience for their junior player? We've got the players themselves. We've got their parents. And then we have yourselves as the coach. So research shows us that players ultimately want to have fun and an enjoyable experience. They want to play games. They want to try things. They want to emulate things that they've seen. Perhaps it's a YouTube clip. They want to be with their friends and they want to feel like they're achieving something. And when you ask a junior player what they want to achieve, it's all about scoring goals. For the parent, I think first and foremost, they want to ensure that there's a safe and secure environment for their child. They want to make sure their child's achieved something and learning something. And one of the main reasons a parent, as I'm sure many of you are, will put their child into junior sport is to be active and healthy and to make new friends. Yeah, and we know that every now and again we do get players who get put into junior sport because their parents do want free time. And then the coach, all of you, well, I'm sure you want to motivate your players to achieve something. You want to make sure that they're engaged. You want to help players learn and you want to help them with their development. And you want to create some sort of ethos about teamwork. And if we're at training, you want to prepare them to be able to try things, try new skills in a game. So that takes our attention to, well, who is the match really for? Is it about you as the coach or is it about the player? Well, it's got to be all about the player. It's all about their chance to try and put some of the things that you've been working on and training into a match. It's all about them. And we want them to remain competitive, yep, but we just want it without the adult-led emphasis on winning. So matches should always be competitive. If I take 2 8-year-olds, play 1v1, put a ball in the middle, they're going to want to beat each other, win the ball and score goals. The game is competitive, but it's just that we don't want to place overdue emphasis or pressure on winning. Think about the long-term development, don't think about short-term results. New slide. So again, another little video that I came across last year, which I think sums it up really well. The pressure that sometimes parents and coaches will put on junior players, where for the player, it's just all about fun and being with their mates.
So, not your best practice. Can we agree on that? It seemed like you wanted to hang out with your friends more than practice. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. You know, just tell me. Because you can do that anytime. Maybe we can skip your next game. Because choosing to waste your time, that's one thing. But wasting my time and your coach's time? That's selfish. You don't care about other people. You don't care about hard work. You don't care about teamwork. That's why you're always on the bench, every time it matters. Your coaches think you're selfish too. Your hockey coach, your soccer coach, your football coach, everyone does. So, if you want to keep playing, you need to take a good hard look at yourself and think about that.
So it's scary. 70% of players will drop out of sport before they reach high school. So we always have to think about, who is junior sport for? Is it for the player? Well, yes. It's not also about the coach. Sure, the coach is going to be involved, but we've got to centre everything around the junior player and their enjoyment and their participation. So as we said before, the match is for the player. It's an opportunity for them to try and apply what they've learned at training on a match. They've got to feel free to make mistakes. Learning is messy. Mistakes will happen because it's part of the learning process. And we know that research shows us that fear is an inhibitor to reaching potential. And the match day environment is key. As the coach, to parents, spectators, you need to create an environment where creativity and risk-taking are encouraged. We want to develop players that are comfortable to give things a go. And when they give things a go, they're not always going to get it right. And sometimes they'll give it a go, they won't get it right, and it might result in us losing a goal and losing a game. But really, that's not the big deal, because we want to create those special players that like taking risks, that like being creative. So talked about before, it's about setting an appropriate game day focus, because it's not about the winning or losing of a game. It's more than that, because we're looking at long-term development. So, especially that age groups from 10 to 13, you'll be working on core skills at training, so pick the core skill you've been working on and use that be the focus for the match. And encourage them to explore that core skill, whether it be striking the ball, first touch, travelling with the ball, or attacking 1v1. And then enhance the player's ability of when and how to implement that core skill and judge success on that. It's not about the result, because you could win a game, and if your players haven't been successful about implementing the core skill, I would say your team's not been successful today, and vice versa. If players are able to recognise situations, apply the core skill, but they lose the game, for me that is still success. Also with footballers 13 and below, there should be no tactical information delivered, apart from maybe the basic foundation of effective team play. Yeah, and maybe for those 10 to 13-year-olds, we can talk about creating and using space to score goals, denying space to prevent goals, and then goal scoring opportunities, how to create them. We don't need to be talking about tactical principles of how to use controlled possession to release somebody in a deep defensive block. Basic foundations of effective team play, and focus on implementing the technical core skills is the only focus. Again, are you a coach that prioritises short-term results as opposed to long-term development? Well, maybe you'll start asking players to do things that will take away from their long-term learning. So make sure you adopt the long-term perspective, as winning in the short term actually can result in players losing in the long term, or denying the player to be a long-term winner and truly achieving their football potential. So the longer, if you play, the more direct you play, you can see that a lot of the learning that the players will not get. So also, we want to avoid early specialisation, especially the 9 to 13-year-olds. So you want to rotate positions game to game. Yep. But when you rotate them, what I do is encourage you to go, well, today you're going to play in the defensive unit. The next week they play in the midfield unit. The next week they play in the attacking unit, and don't forget to give them chances being the goalkeeper. Because give them enough chance to learn that position or that unit before moving them on. I wouldn't recommend a player playing across 3 different units in one game. They need time to generate an understanding of that position to generate the learning. And avoid early specialisation. It's about teaching them the whole game and give every child the chance of success. So it's teach them the whole game. Don't limit them to only understanding the part of the game. For example, if a child always plays as a defender, they will only ever experience the game from that perspective. They will never get the opportunity to try to shoot and score a goal, to deliver a cross, or to learn how to apply different techniques in the attacking situation. Don't be the coach that only teaches your players half of the game, because the ones that will succeed in the long term are the ones that understand how the whole game operates. So you mentioned it slightly before. Well, what about goalkeepers? How do you incorporate? How do you develop them? So again, quick guidelines. Everybody should have a chance to experience being a goalkeeper when they're ready. And you still want to avoid early specialisation. Give the ones that are keen goalkeepers a little bit more time in goal. And avoid changing the goalkeeper during the game when the game's live. So maybe somebody plays the first half and then someone has an opportunity to play in the second half. But never force someone into goal. Let them try it when they feel ready. And often they don't want to give it a go because they're unconfident or they don't understand the position. So practice sessions can be a good place to build confidence and understanding. And even if you have somebody that's taking a shining to being a goalkeeper, just remember that they still need time to incorporate the outfield skills, because as the game's moving forward, the goalkeeper now has to be able to play with their feet. We need strategies as the coach to be inclusive, so everybody gets an equal experience. So come up with a way to make sure that within your team that you have a strategy that you communicate to both players and parents. You avoid policies that exclude less talented players. As we saw from the video before, you're taking away potentially the game day experience for a player. Well, it's only so long before they'll walk away from our game. And even the most talented players should have an experience taking turns. If winning is the main focus for a coach, the best players may play the entire game, and the less players will miss out on their game day playing experience until a point where they will walk away. So talking about being inclusive, I've came up recently with a quote from Dennis Bergkamp. So have a read of that quickly. So, as a coach, there might be times that you put players in positions or put players on the field or take off the field that might cost the team a goal. It might cost your team winning a game. But you've got to be looking at it and going, what's best for their long-term development? They might not win today, but they will definitely win tomorrow. So for the last part of this presentation, I want to look at age-appropriate development. So what we should be delivering, and particularly for players in this discovery and skill acquisition phase. So those players that are aged from 5 through to 13. So to start with, the first thing I want to look at is FIFA's player learning development stages. So as you can see, when someone comes in with their first experience of football at 5 or 6, all the way through to experience football as a senior player. So this is what FIFA believes we need to focus on. So when they first enter our sport at 5 or 6, it's all about physical literacy. It's all about just getting players moving. It's working on their speed, their motor control, their balance and coordination. As they move through into 7 and 8s, it's all about the players discovering the ball. So developing a relationship with the player and the ball. The next step, you're now looking at players in that 10 to 13 age group. It's all about relation capacity. So it's how you help me and I help you either keep the ball or get the ball. And there's a core focus or a heavy focus on the 4 core attacking skills. Striking the ball, first touch, travelling with the ball, and attacking 1v1. As they start going through into the high school age, it's all about functional capacity. So it's all about how they work together to apply the core skills in a unit setting. So it's about the defending unit, the midfield unit, or the attacking unit. Team capacity, that's all about learning to work together as a team. So how all the units work together. And this is the functional capacity and the team capacity. That's where we can start installing tactical information. Match capacity is next. Yeah, we're looking at those players 17, 18, 19. Now it's about how we learn to perform. And it's not till you get to the performance phase, sort of 18 plus, we are learning and we're performing to win. And that's where the winning is the only one where winning is important. All the other ones are about players' long-term development within the game. So you'll see I've put up now here is that Football Federation's Australia phases of development, which mirror exactly what FIFA talk about. So we have the discovery phase, skill acquisition phase, game training phase, and the performance phase. And it's only the performance phase where winning matters. All other phases Game training, skill acquisition, discovery are all about players' development within our sport. So in the discovery phase, the 5 to 9-year-olds, really it's all about falling in love with football, and building a lifelong love for our game. And like the name suggests, it's all about discovering one's possibilities through trial and error. No coaching, but organisation of fun football activities. And there's an expression, just let the game be the teacher. The next phase, the 10 to 13-year-olds for skill acquisition, where here is a focus on developing a player's technical foundation. So train activities that focus on the functional game skills, especially the 4 core attacking skills: striking the ball, travelling with the ball, first touch, and 1v1. Here we want to build a really solid technical foundation. So when players progress from this phase of development, they have a strong technical core. And the next phase is from 14 onwards through to 17s, where we focus on game training. And this is really where we want to start developing tactical awareness by applying functional game skills in a team setting. So here's where we start talking about tactical information around the key principles of the game. Everything else below this, technical foundation, fun, and falling in love with football. Hence why FFA have designed a community education pathway that's aligned to the phases of development and aligned to the FIFA learning stages. So there's a course for coaches, so they know what they should be providing with age-appropriate training sessions from players at every age of the game. When they step into mini-roos for their first kick, all the way progression through skill training, game training, and into senior football. Each course will outline to the coach what age-appropriate training looks like for that player. So now I want to look at stages of development and looking at some of the differences between a player who comes into football at 4 or 5, who exits the skill acquisition phase into the game training phase at 13. Because I'm sure you'll agree, from a 5-year-old through to a 13-year-old, there's lots of different development that happens. So here's the players who are first experiencing football. So physically, they're quite energetic, but they're relatively uncoordinated, and they approach things with high levels of curiosity and imagination, but they have very, very short attention spans. They're playful, and often they'll have little coordination or familiarity with football. So if we really want to, if we're a coach working with players in these age groups, here's the things we need to do to meet the players' needs, because it's all about them. So we need lots of simple movements through games that focus on running, coordination, balance, and speed. Short, fun activities there's a variety. Fun and exciting games where almost they fall in love with just having fun, which has a football context. And it's all about just discovering the ball. So lots of games where it's just the player and the ball. As they progress through, those 7 and 8-year-olds, again, energetic but often uncoordinated, and they're a little bit more sensitive to criticism but still have short attention spans. They're not aware of group involvement, but they're playful. So actually, in their cognitive development, everything in life is about I. It's about them. They're the centre of their world. They're yet to develop spatial awareness skills, and they have very little understanding about a team concept. Again, they're uncoordinated often with the ball and still have little understanding of how the game is played. So to meet their needs, still exploration of movements, lots of praise, encouragement, and high levels of involvement. You can start using activities that just increase the awareness of their teammates. And then again, it's playful learning, basic skills, but just let them play. Again, just let the game be the teacher. And then 9 to 13-year-olds. Here's where some adaptations and some growth really start happening. So there's some physiological changes, and they enjoy a physical challenge. They're really critical of self and others. And at this age, and if you've got a child at this age, I'm sure you're aware that peer opinion and fairness are really, really important. And what we say, these are the golden years of skill acquisition. These are the golden years of learning, because the brain is primed to learn new skills. and we can start working on understanding of team and space. So again, here's the things that we need to do to meet the needs of these players. So actually focus on speed and agility using competitive games. Reinforce improvement and progression, but still make sure there's opportunities for all, because you never know where someone's football journey may take them. And here we can really start enhancing the players, encourage them skill development with both feet. So obviously at the moment, and why we're doing this via video as opposed to having you down at the parks, is that there's a little bit of a shutdown at the moment. So I think while we don't have contact with our players, this is time as a coach we can really invest in ourselves and invest in understanding what do players that you're working with need for their age and their development. So at the moment on FFA, there's lots of resources you can click on and you can access via Play Football. So most of you would have been on Play Football, but there's e-learning modules that you can click on it and complete. There's videos which have discussion and support, and there's the player development project. There's some really, really good articles that focus on development at different age groups. So I'd encourage you, while you might not be able to coach your teams, it's a time for you to explore and continue to grow your knowledge as a coach, and really encourage you to go and click and watch some of these videos or complete some of the modules online. So that brings my presentation to an end, and what I'd like to do now is open up any questions that people have on the content that's been presented so far.
Alec, thank you very much.
No problem.
Great insight there. Could I just get a couple of yeses if you guys can hear us? Just we make sure thank you, Claudia. Great. So obviously, welcome to Adelaide. You've been with us. You arrived when?
Start of February was when I first got into the office. So but
settled in well.
Well, yeah, but I guess it's just like everywhere in the world. It's a bit interesting at the moment, an interesting time. But first impressions, I like Adelaide and see yourself being here for a number of years. So.
Just as a starting point, Alec, are there any differences between the curriculum in New Zealand and in Australia?
No, I think because of people who have been involved in the game, both here and in New Zealand, a number of our methodology, so our coaching methodology is exactly the same, our phases of development are exactly the same, and competition structure is very, very similar. So I've been asked that a number of times from different people, and I'd say about 98% of the content is exactly the same. So it's really just stepping into, it's somewhere new, but it's somewhere where everything's still, it's the same methodology, it's the same phase of development, and even the national curriculums are very, very similar.
What would you say the biggest challenge is walking into the role in SA and at a national level as well?
I think always, and I think wherever I've been and worked in football, it's always one of the biggest challenges actually getting coaches for everybody's team, and identifying who's keen to coach and then supporting the development for those coaches through their own development, because it's only if we can develop our coaches that's going to lead to a better experience for our players, and then we've got more sustainable clubs. So I think anywhere in football in the world, it's always at the grassroots level. It's always about how do we engage and upskill our coaching force.
Yeah, great. So Ken's messaged, what support/education program do you have for parents and for coaches working with parents, and how important is it to incorporate free play in training?
Yes, I think there's a lot of research being done recently on free play, and something I've seen, and I can't quote it word for word, but there's something like if children while playing attempt something or learn something, it takes 3 or 4 goes, where if it's structured practice, it can often take longer. So I think there's always an opportunity for a coach in some part of the session, just allow the players to play. And it's really let the game be the teacher, especially for the younger ages in that discovery phase. They don't need lots of coaching. Just let them play and let them experience, let them make mistakes, because that's where the learning will happen.
Sure. W. Ventura says, great presentation. Well done.
Cheers. Thank you for that.
They want to know, they obviously want to learn more, and they're thinking of doing their C license. How can they get involved to improve their coaching development?
Yeah, so we'll be looking at another C license at the back end of the season. So we might just depend on how things progress over the next few weeks, whether that's originally scheduled for October, November. So if you are thinking about doing that, there's also some informal workshops that we have some dates set aside for. And registration links will be open once sort of business resumes to a bit of a normality. But the informal workshops are a really good way for people to come in, experience some of the modules that are delivered on the C licence. These workshops are free, so you can come in and like put your foot in the water, give it a go, see what the content's like, and then make a decision whether you're ready to move there or not. And similarly, if you've been on a course, you're still completing your assessment, it's a great way to drop back in, re-familiarise yourself with some of the course material to help you prepare for your assessment. So keep an eye out for those when things get back on track.
Mark said, if we have a long break for 2020, which we obviously still don't know what's going on, would it be good? Would it be a good time to amend the playing format of under 12s and have them play 9v9 instead of overstretching them on a full pitch 11v11s?
Yeah, and I think that's something that maybe the Federation looks at. It's not my department, but it's something that I know competitions are looking at and potentially reviewing, and it's something that maybe they might bring in for seasons, next season or the season beyond. But I know there's been some initial discussions around that.
Yeah. Right. And Joe said something similar, why under 12 still playing 11v11, other states are playing 9v9. Do they do any similar things in New Zealand? So
at home, they changed the playing formats about 7-8 years ago. A little bit of conjecture when it was first spun, but now I think everybody agrees that it's the best way forward. And you'll play 7v7 up until 10, 9v9 for 11s and 12s, and then 11-a-side football at 13s. And again, that's quite a common approach to other football nations. Mm-hmm. I know the same as Japan. I know it's very similar in the States and parts of the UK and Spain. So.
Yeah, great. And I think the under 12s, 9v9 all come into effect in 2021. So it's very exciting for the development for our game.
Yeah, and I think it's the best thing for the players because they just get exposed to more situations where they've got to make more decisions. So if there's more decisions, there's more learning for them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Brian, are there any online coaching courses you'd recommend to do while at home during this period? I'm sure you've been working on a few bits and pieces.
Yeah, and we actually got a question from Tom at Mount Gambier around this tonight as well, prior to it. And again, this is a test case for us. And depending on people's feedback tonight, we'll look at what else we can do. I've been in some discussions with some people that I think would add value for certain presentations. So I guess it's something we can use. And I know, having conversations last week with colleagues across the other states and actually conversations with colleagues overseas, who some of them are watching tonight to see how it goes. It's something that I think we can probably use more of, especially for maybe some of our coaches in more of our remote areas that struggle maybe to get into Adelaide for these type of events.
And just to clarify, Ross has just asked, can they get a copy of the presentation? Absolutely. We'll publish all the slides.
And feel free to share it with your coaches and your clubs as well.
Claudia, how do we as coaching coordinators get our coaches qualified in community football in time for the season start, when most of the time the coaches come from volunteer parents once the teams are already formed?
Yeah, it's been something I've been working in coach education now for about 7 years. And I know in the past a lot of clubs have contacted me and said, can we have courses for January, February? And then you talk to the club in the lead up and they're like, can we push the course back because we don't have a lot of our coaches? I think it's about ensuring that when you identify someone to be a coach, you already have a support network in place. You already say, this is where you can go on this course. This is how the club's going to help you and how get you some support to make sure the job is easy as possible. So again, it's about being proactive and having some proactive plans for your coaches when you're asking them to volunteer.
You guys got any more questions at all, or would you like to share any projects that you're going to be working on this year?
Yeah, so it's a little bit hard to share too many projects because I had some definitely in the pipeline, but with a lot of people's businesses at the moment, things are sort of been put on hold and we don't quite know where we're going. So I can guarantee you, for my time here, there'll be lots of things that we can do because my job is to make sure that the coaches within our game are supported and have access to regular workshops, regular courses to make sure that they can continue their development, because at the end of the day, if we develop the players, we have to develop the coaches, because it's about the experience the coach delivers will keep our players in the game in the long term. So it's something for me that's what I'm pretty passionate about.
And obviously from a federation point of view, I know we've been working on content to release in the next week or so to help junior players. Do you want to?
Yeah, so we've been putting together over the last few days, and we were actually out filming on Friday last week, and then a little bit more this afternoon. Some challenges that players can do at home or down at the local park, and there's a chance for them to upload, submit the challenge, send in the video, and there's potentially prizes up for grabs as well, because here's an opportunity where, especially free play, just getting kids out with a ball, is what we need to focus on, and there's lots of different ways we can do that, and we want to stimulate the players to give things a go on their own, and that's kind of why kids like computer games, because they just get to play and they don't often have parental or coach involvement. So we want to try and breed that into our footballers as well. Just get them out playing with the ball by themselves and fall in love with football, because it's a game that we should all love, hopefully.
Absolutely. Well, if we have no more, I don't think we have any more questions coming in. So Alec, thank you very much for your time.
No problem. And feel free to share this around your club, around with the other coaches, and watch the space for once we get back up and running as business as normal. There'll be other things that we can do, and potentially while we're all maybe stuck indoors or locked out of work, there might be some other content that we can share and put up online as well.
We will do our very best.
Okay.
Alec, thank you very much.
No worries. Speak to you all soon.
We'll invite Alex Snaski back into the frame. Thank you for your questions, guys. I really appreciate it. It's good that we have this two-way form of communication. So, Alex, tell us about our next guest. I think he's online.
Hopefully. Well, we do have Carl Veart, who's going to join us shortly. And we're going to talk about his football journey all the way from Whyalla to Adelaide, over to Sheffield United and back again. So just bear with us while we try and get Carl connected on here. And we'll go from here.
So we'll unmute and ask to start video. I'm not sure. Can you hear us, Carl?
Yes, I can.
Hello, Carl. How are you?
Yeah, very good.
Have you got, do you have video at all? No issues if you don't, just so...
Yeah, I do, yeah.
There we go.
Fantastic. Well, Carl, thank you for taking the time. It's really good to have you here. I guess, first of all, tell us about your football journey from a child. Obviously, you grew up in rural South Australia. Tell us about your journey. I caught little bits of that last presentation. Interesting one. I suppose I started playing soccer at the age of 4, and played, as you say, in Whyalla up until I left Whyalla, which was 17, 18. And from that age, I don't recall ever being coached. When I grew up in Whyalla, training was just always a game. Whoever turned up, trained, and we had a game. We picked 2 teams and we played. And I can't really remember having any coaching until, I suppose, I sort of started coming down to Adelaide when I was about 13 and going into sort of state training camps and stuff like that. And that was when I sort of started getting a little bit of coaching. So, I just loved the game, loved playing, always had a ball, always practicing by myself, kicking it against the wall and doing that. And I think that's, the main thing for kids, is that they got to be enjoying it and having fun and playing football.
So is it not really structured, Carl? Is it small style games, or just mattered whoever?
No, it was pretty much turn up, pick 2 teams and play.
Yeah.
I've had I've got kids myself, and sons that play football, and my youngest now, who's 9, and I watch his training sessions, and at times the coaches and they want to coach. And at times, the kids get bored when someone's talking a lot. So, my experience is best just to let the kids play, and the kids that are struggling, then you go and speak to them and give them some one-on-one instruction and help them to improve. In the end, we just need kids to be playing a lot more and less direction.
So is that one of the major differences between your sort of youth development and now?
I would say so, yes. As I said, growing up in the country, I suppose also being a country kid, I had access to a lot of other sports as well. It just wasn't soccer. I played every sport. That's what you do in the country. So that's what I did, and it gave me, I suppose, a good balance in the game that I loved.
Carl, tell us about your transition from playing to coaching. Was it a long journey? Was it a quick transition? Tell us about how you transitioned.
Yeah, look, as a player, some players don't enjoy the coaching part, and some players are interested in, tactics and what happens in games. And I suppose I had that in me. I enjoyed the tactical side of games and paid attention to the coaches that I had through my career that taught me things. So coming towards the end, I suppose about 7 or 8 years before I finished playing, I did some coaching courses. And so I did a lot of courses before I finished playing. When I finished playing, then I said, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to coach. And at the time, I was more interested in developing and working with younger players than senior players. So I, from finishing playing, at Adelaide United, I stepped on board and coached there for a couple of years, and mainly working with the younger players and the youth team players at the club. And then I've stepped away and worked for the Football Federation for a while, coaching in the pathway there for about 7 years, and now I'm back into the senior football.
Oh, let me just fix our camera. It looks like people can see us, which they don't want to see our our faces. Let me see. Spotlight video. All right, hopefully that works. So, Carl, tell us about the differences between. Obviously, you mentioned that you did some coaching with the Federation for a few years, and now you're with the senior squad at Adelaide United. Tell us about the differences in your coaching approach from the differences between juniors and seniors.
Yeah, look, the main difference is when you're coaching young players, you're coaching them for tomorrow. You're not coaching them to win today. You're coaching them to always get better and challenge them to be better and improve their level that they're at. And now that I'm in professional football, it's, yes, you're still challenging the players to be better, but now you also have a focus that you need to win. And whereas with the younger players, it wasn't there wasn't a focus on winning. There was a focus more on making them better and making them to be competitive in themselves as well. Whereas now it's more about getting the result for the senior players, especially in this professional environment.
What impact does the Football SA NCC program have on our elite young players and providing them the opportunity to become professional footballers in the future? And if they're not in that program and they're in clubs, do they still have that sort of opportunity?
Of course. There's no, and this is the big thing. There's no proven pathway that's going to say, oh, if you do this, you do this, you do that, you're going to be a successful professional footballer. There's just. Because if there was, there'd be, everyone would be down that path. Yes, if you're in a professional environment in clubs, you might have more chance of success. But if you're in local clubs, you still have just as much chance to succeed. Until, at the end of the day, it will come from what drives you inside as an individual player to make it to the top.
Yeah, just on that. So, if anyone has any questions for Carl, feel free to pop them in the comments. Carl, tell us about your relationship, obviously, with the Toure brothers. How are they going? And obviously, how do they balance the experience with your A-League squad and then the NPL squad as well?
Yeah, we've got quite a few young players in the group at the moment. As you said, we've got young Mohammed, and there's quite a few other young players that are training with our first team squad. So because that's the way that, when I moved back to be with Adelaide United, that was one of the main reasons that I wanted to come back on board. The club wants to promote young players and youth players, and that's, as I said, that's a main focus of myself. I like to provide those opportunities and give those opportunities to the young players, and the club has done that this year. We've put in quite a few younger players and given them opportunities to play, and not just short times, and keep giving them opportunities to play, and not play. We've given quite a few that train alongside the first team as well. So I think at the moment we've got maybe 7, 8, 9 of the youth team players training full time with the A-League squad.
What does the future hold, Carl, for our national game? Do you see the curve on the up in terms of our youth development?
Yeah, that's a difficult one.
Sorry, that was a tricky question.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, we're doing. I think we've got a lot of people out there doing their best. They're trying to do the best for the young players that are coming through and provide them with the opportunities to be successful. But we're sort of doing it with one hand tied behind our back. We just don't have enough resources to provide better environments for our players to make that jump from non-professional to professional football. Not just young players. It's the other players, especially. You got players in that age group from 18 to 24 that need more opportunities to play and need opportunities to improve, and that's the main thing. We lack the resources and the opportunities for young players to make that next step.
Yeah. Paul Spalding, thank you for your question. Carl, do you think that our professional clubs, for example, Adelaide United, should be starting junior academies and programs from a younger age like they do in Europe, where kids are picked up by a professional club at 8 to 10 years old?
Look, we don't have the resources to do that. The cost alone is prohibitive for A-League clubs to do that. Yes, there's certain A-League clubs already in Australia that can do that, but they have far bigger budgets to manage those programs. Because if you're a professional club and you're going to take these academies, then you need to provide coaches that are professional and provide the right pathways and the right instructions. And as I said, we just don't have resources there's not in Australia, not just in Adelaide, that can provide those same resources that they do in Europe.
Yeah, good answer.
From Stefan, how many hours per week or sessions do you feel is enough for juniors under 12 to 14s to maximise their potential?
Look, I still believe up until 14, 15 that they still should maybe also have other activities outside of just football, not just focusing on football. But if they're in a sort of an elite program, they need to be doing 3 to 4 sessions a week, and then still have other exposures to other things outside of that. For other kids, there's different levels. Some kids want to be professional footballers. Some kids want to play just to be with their friends, and some, are in between. So it's about finding those levels that for each kid to provide them with a correct level for each player.
From Brian, quite simply, what would be the best advice you could give to a young aspiring coach?
It's always, we talk about the young players, about how they can get better, and for coaches it's the same thing. You should always be reflecting on how you can get better. How you've delivered your session. Could you do better? What would you do next time? and it's all, as I say, it's more about letting the game be the teacher.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Another question from Will here, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this because it's across the country, but about the cost of the game, and do we provide kids that are in low socioeconomic background the opportunity, and if so, how do we, when we might be missing out on players, how do we get those into the sport? Are the scholarships available, or how can we set these up?
Yeah, that's, going back on something I said earlier, the limited resources that we have in this country to provide the right environments. As you say, I believe the game is too expensive for the young players coming through, but everything. I don't know if the clubs can actually do it any cheaper because everything costs money. Your training facilities, your lights, your power, your water, everything all goes into that. And once you start doing 3-4 sessions a week, that's a lot of training that you got to provide facilities for. It's a difficult one. I think the governments maybe need to help a little bit more and provide more resources so we can bring down the price of having it for kids. And that's the biggest inhibitive thing that we have in the game at the moment, the cost of the game.
Yeah, definitely.
Another one from Ken. Can you, you mentioned before about letting the game be the teacher. Could you elaborate a bit more on that for Ken and everyone listening?
Yeah, as I said, as a kid, all you want to do, if you took 7 or 8 kids down to the park and you said, what are we going to do? They will either want to shoot goals or they want to play a game. So for me, that's let them play a game. And if you're the coach, and as they're playing, you can see, stop the game maybe, and then you can see what deficiencies, whether they need to work on some passing, whether they need to work on their first touch or running with the ball, and then spend 10 minutes on working on one of those topics and then go back into the game. I think that's the biggest thing. We spend too long providing too much instruction, or we come up with drills where it's just quite complicated and it takes too long to explain, or it takes it's too difficult for the kids to do. So it's about finding that balance and letting them play and find their more enjoyment.
Yeah, of course.
Carl, how do you like football to be played?
Well, it's for me. I think I prefer it to be an attacking game. I like the game to be fairly free flowing, and I'm not a big one on, especially in junior football. It should be about the result, about defending. And you see that in the professional level. It's more. You see a lot of teams that play quite defensive. I'd rather it be a bit more open and a bit more attacking. You watch, I suppose the team that's really doing exceptionally well at the moment, it's hard for me to say that, is Liverpool. But the football that they're playing is so open and so attacking, it's enjoyable to watch.
Mm. Yeah. Anybody else have any more questions for Carl? Oh, excellent. Thank you, Brian. Right on time. What's been your favourite coach that you've worked with or under, and why? Good question.
It's difficult to say a favourite coach because there's a lot of the coaches that I've had I've enjoyed. They've all I've taken things from all of them. But I'd have to say the main one that has had the biggest influence on me as a player and maybe even a little bit as a coach is Zoran Matic. He was the first real coach that I had that really explained things to me on how I can be better as a player and how the team needed to play more together to have success.
I think there's a number of coaches in local league or nationally now that have played under Zoran Matic, and they'll say the same thing. Is there what was so good about him, and why have so many coaches come from under playing with him?
Yeah, look, it was, I suppose, I say I learnt the most under Zoran. We were very structured and very, he was very rigid in the way he wanted to play. And I suppose, in a way, that was his biggest flaw as well. He didn't allow the players really to have that freedom to really express themselves. So, but on the flip side, he had, he taught discipline and tactically he was quite good as well. So, and to be successful as a footballer, you need to have discipline.
As it, obviously, we're in a very fast-moving world in terms of technology and data. Your softwares like Huddle, etc. To what extent do you think a junior coach should be using those tools? And give us an insight into how you use these tools at the professional level as well.
Video is great, but at junior level it becomes quite difficult, and it's a cost again to film games, and to really get the true value of a video of a game, it has to be at a height where you can actually see above and get good vision from the game. Otherwise, if it's at ground level or not, or just a little bit elevated, it's not really good enough to really develop as a coach, and see the movements of the players. So that's the main thing that's a cost inhibitor for the players. When I was coaching at the NTC, in the youth, we filmed all the games, and it was made available for all the players to watch the games, because that's another big thing that I believe in Australia that we lack is our football knowledge. As players coming through, they just don't watch enough football. They don't watch themselves enough to improve better, to get better. And that's how you develop your football knowledge, by watching football, watching good games, see how the best players go about, how do they play, what do they do when they make a mistake. And that's a big thing that we lack in this country, of players actually watching, young players of watching high-level football. And at a senior level, at the A-League level, yes, we video a lot of our training sessions and review what we've done at training as coaches, firstly, and implement, and then change what has worked well and what's not working well, and we show a lot of that stuff to the playing group, and then all of our games get filmed, and we have different angles to see the games, and a lot of that gets fed back to the playing group.
Very good. Finally, a couple of more questions. There's one from Ken in regards to which books or can you recommend for coaches, any coaching material and things like that?
Yeah, look, I suppose the federations have put out a lot of those books that are quite good. But again, there's no coaching. You can buy many books with coaching sessions in it and that, but has no real effect on the players that you're coaching. You need to find what's lacking from your players and adjust sessions that are going to suit your players. There's no point just copying sessions that you can find millions of them on the internet. It's about finding what's best for the playing group that you've got.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, on other books on reading, yes, again, it's about developing your football knowledge. It's not, keep reading. There's lots of knowledge out there. You just got to, find what you're interested in.
At an A-League level, do you have like mentors, or do you have coaching sessions with the other A-League coaches, or can you give us an insight into that and how that works?
No, look, I suppose over your course of your career of coaching, you develop networks with other coaches, and you have discussions with those coaches in your networks on what you've done at training, what's worked for you in tactical senses in games and that. that's about it. It's just about your own sort of network. I've gone through and done all the coaching courses. So I've, as I said to you, I think my first coaching course was the old senior license back in, I reckon it was in 2000, and then I did the state license, and then from that I went on and did my B license, A license, and my pro license. And just along those courses, you develop a big network of coaches.
Just lastly, from us, Carl, what does the future hold for yourself? Can you see yourself coaching an A-League club, going back overseas? What do you see the future for yourself?
Yeah, look, I'm in a position now that I've really enjoying working alongside a coach that I'm learning a lot from. And who knows what's going to happen from here. Yes, I'd love to be an A-League coach, but it has to be at the right time and in the right environment for myself that I think is best for myself. But at the moment, I'm really enjoying the position that I have at the moment with Adelaide United, working closely with other coaches and just learning every day.
Excellent stuff. All right, well, Carl, thank you very much for your time. I know it's quite a difficult period for the game at the moment, so I really appreciate you making the time for us. And on behalf of all the coaches that are online, thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Carl.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so I just muted us. That's not good.
If anyone's got any other questions for myself or Matt, if not, we'll wrap this up, and it's been recording, and we can send you all the material from Matt, myself, Alec, and Andrew.
Yeah, it's really good to have this form of communication. As we said, it's an interesting time for our game at the moment. So we're constantly coming up with ideas of how we can engage with the community. So we really appreciate you guys taking the time on what's the day today?
It's Monday.
It's a Monday. That's how crazy it is. So, all right. Well, thank you very much, guys. And yes.
And look after yourselves. Look after yourselves. Thank you.